FTM Kickstarters. It's Travis. This week's topic is how did we know we were transgender? Why did we transition? What steps did we take? All that jazz. Basically, looking back, I think everybody can say that they had more masculine tendencies as a child in regards of playing, clothing choices, activities, and whatnot. Basically, for me, it all started to get pieced together when I started performing drag in October of 2006. Around that time, I made friends with a guy named David who was already into his transition, so I kind of, just bumming through MySpace, came across him, not really sure how. But basically, after performing drag for a couple months, I started to feel really comfortable binding and packing and being referred to as a man and being called by a male name. And so that kind of compelled me to start doing some research. I found a bunch of internet sites I was reading, some MySpace groups, tracked some other people down through MySpace who felt similar, started talking to David a lot more, asking him a lot of questions about how he knew, and stuff like that in the beginning. Found some Yahoo groups I joined, basically just kind of networked with people. Didn't really do a whole lot of YouTube video watching. I'm not sure if there was a lot of video making or if it was as popular as it was now in 2006 when I started to question everything, early 2007-ish. So that's kind of what I did for resource-wise. I also picked up a bunch of books I started reading. Female Masculinity, Becoming a Visible Man, Transgender Warriors, The Phallus Place, Testosterone Files, which is really good, Self-Made Men, and In a Queer Place and Time were some of the books that I had read. I also read Drag King Dreams and Stone Butch Blues, which were also really good too. If anybody would like to borrow or have any of the books that I have, feel free to let me know. I'd be more than glad to send them your way. They just sit on my shelf right now, and I'd love to give that resource to anybody who would want it. So basically, yeah, drag kind of brought everything in perspective for me. January of 2007, it was like a Saturday evening, Sunday early morning, about 3 o'clock in the morning. I kind of woke up from not really sleeping and called my friends up and was like, hey, I think I'm supposed to be a man. And they were totally cool with it. They had a friend who was also transsexual and well into his transition at that point in time too. So they kind of had been down that road of people coming out to them. Then I started kind of telling all my other friends, just kind of like, hey, this is who I am, blah, blah, blah. As far as people that I performed with, I told them, because there were a couple other trans guys that I was performing with at the time as well. About that time, I started living what therapists call a real-life test, so I spent pretty much all of 2007 living my life as a man. Binding every day, presenting myself as a man, spending more time with the people that called me him and by my stage name Derek. I came out to a couple friends later in 2007, and more, the later it got into 2007, the more it solidified in my mind that this is really, this is who I wanted to be. I was supposed to be born a man. I started telling people. I lost a lot of friends who have come back in the recent years. I guess they couldn't deal with it at the time, but basically I just kind of had chat with them, send text message, send an IM, send a message, wrote an email, telling them, this and that and whatnot. I started going to therapy in January of 2008. I went to therapy for about 2 months before I actually started hormones. Talked about a lot of stuff, about what I was going through family-wise, relationship-wise, if I had a support system, the whole 9 yards. So therapy for me was really good. I recommend therapy for anybody who's starting out in their transition. It does wonders. I started hormones March 2008, end of March 2008, and 3 years later, I'm doing fantastically. Um, that's for the how did I know and the why, whatnot. As far as coming out to my parents, I came out to my dad first. I came out to my dad in April of 2008. I wrote him a letter telling him how I was feeling, how I'd been feeling, and just basically kind of put myself out there to him, explaining as much as I could about being transgender or transsexual, what my plans were for the future as far as name change and surgeries and stuff like that went. He wrote me a really good response back, really accepting. My siblings just kind of told them verbally, outright, hey, I'm gonna be your brother now. They don't really have a problem with it. My mom I didn't tell until about a year after I was on hormones because I have a younger sister who just turned 10 in March, and I was afraid that if my mom didn't accept it, that I wouldn't be allowed to see her, and she's an important part of my life, and I'm an important part of her life, and I didn't want to take that away from her or from myself. So about a year later, I wrote my mom a letter. She called me about 2 months after I sent her that letter and wanted to debate and argue about the stuff that I'd written in my letter as far as how I'd felt in the past of her acceptance of things that I had done. I don't understand it. I don't understand why she wanted to debate with me about my feelings, but basically she wanted to debate with me. So, I mean, all in all, it's all good. She accepts me now. She calls me T, not Travis. My sister calls me T and not Travis. But for my mom, I think that's just a compromise that she was able to make, and that's what she had to do to accept me as me. But other than that, it's all good now. I think I touched on the why transition. Basically, it just got to a point of where depression overtook my life, and I had no choice. I couldn't keep living as a female and performing as a man and being comfortable as a man, so basically I just kind of gave in and was like, this is me. And that whole night on January, when I called my friends and told them I think I'm supposed to be a man, was kind of like when everything came together for me and I finally accepted it for me. But yeah, I guess basically that's my story. So hope everyone has a good weekend. Happy Easter. If you guys have any questions, post them below the video or send me a message. Yep. So happy Easter, have a good weekend, and I will see you guys next week.